Welcome to Whiskey One, the channel for the novice, the curious, and the connoisseur. I'm Whiskey One, and today we're going to be reviewing the Jack Daniel's Twice Barreled. So stick around. Whiskey fam, sit down and grab a dram, because here we go talking whiskey. This is a donated bottle by my good friend Daniel Warren, so quick shout out to you. Thank you for letting me borrow this for a quick review. And before we dive in, folks, I just want to welcome all of you newcomers to the channel. Maybe you've never come across our channel before, and so we hope you enjoy what you watch. And if you have any comments or any suggestions for our future videos, feel free to drop a comment. And of course, if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing. That could certainly help us out. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Consider joining our Patreon. We are going to be doing bigger things this year, trying to do a podcast. And we're going to be doing different things like visiting distilleries. And we're looking to get your continued support. And one of the ways that you could definitely help us out, because we're not monetized, is by becoming a Patreon. So without further ado, let's get into this bad boy, shall we? So again, a bottle donation by our friend Daniel, and I don't think I would have been lucky enough to get this bottle. So for you guys that are watching, you're probably wondering, man, can I find this? What is this about, even if I do? And is it worth the cheddar that I'll probably have to drop to get this? This is a limited release, by the way, and it's bottled at 53.4% ABV. So it is about that mid-range. It's not I wouldn't say it's a cask strength or a proof bomb or anything like that. You know, it's right around that 106.8 proof. And so for you guys that are watching and wondering if this is going to be very aggressive, I don't think it will be. I had a chance to try it before. I didn't recall it being very high proof, but it's in that mid-range, right in that 50s mark, right? And before I dive into the tasting notes, one thing to know about it is this is Jack Daniel's first release of a pure single malt or 100% malted whiskey. And it's their first run, I guess, of doing something pretty unique outside of Tennessee whiskey. Now, one thing to note, it is twice barreled. So initially it was made and aged using a charred New American oak barrel and a virgin oak barrel, and then later dumped into a secondary barrel, a Oloroso sherry cask. And that was really done to give it that sherry finish. So I'm looking to probably get a whole lot of berries and maybe a little wine must in this. So without further ado, let's dive in. Jack Daniel's fans, I think you're gonna get this bottle anyway. But for those of you that don't necessarily always go after a Jack Daniel's bottle or any of their special releases, you're probably wondering, is it going to be this thing that I need to get my hands on? Going back on the nose, yeah, I think you should chase this down. I think it'll be a matter of what level connoisseur are you? Like, are you going to be waiting in line? Are you going to want to wait in line? Are you going to want to break out the credit card to get this, because it is a limited release, and limited release bottles tend to ask for a little bit more cheddar. But on the nose, let's talk through this. I think this is very much different than a Jack Daniel's bottle is expected to be. You know, for those of you that are well acquainted with Jack Daniel's, or maybe those that are not, you typically expect to get a little bit of that banana bread, that banana nut bread funk, and it's almost like a telltale sign that you're drinking Jack Daniel's. No banana bread here, but you do get this nice round of like nuttiness, chocolate, hazelnut. You do get some berries, but what's really different is that you don't get that banana presence. You do get a chocolate covered nut, like almost like a praline. It's not just like a fruit bomb or anything like that. Where you get more of the fruitiness feels more into that mid-range, like when you start to get into that mid-palate. Now, it's not fruit forward, but it does have a wine must. You know, for a, what I guess you could call a single malt, it is very, very nice. A very representative single malt, American single malt. It's not got like a lot of minerality. So when you think of single malt, you guys that are probably Scotch fans are thinking, man, is it going to be like briny and feel like a Scotch? No, this feels more on the American side. So more oaky, a lot more wood influence. I noticed that the American single malts tend to be a little bit more oak forward and not as briny. So, man, let's dive in. Cheers. A nice Tennessee hug. I'm not going to say it's like spicy or anything like that, but it's warming, welcoming. That initial sip just lets you know we're here to play, we're here to have a little fun. And it's very different, like I said, than other Jack Daniels that you're going to be used to, where, you know, you're used to bourbon, you might have gotten your hands on a rye. I think if you were looking to push this to a cask strength or something like that, this might be a little hot. But this is just right in that mid-range. And I think overall on the palate, in that first sip feels really nice. So I'm going to go in for a second sip. Second sip, you get a little bit more dark chocolate and a little leather, but then you start to get the rounds and rounds of that Oloroso sherry. It does have that fruitiness to it, but it's not aggressive. This feels like a very balanced whiskey, honestly. Nothing's like dominating, and it's sweet. You got good rounds of salted toffee, I would say, or salted caramel. You get almost like a buttered biscuit. There's a little cookie going on here, you know, and I think that, you know, with that chocolate presence, it feels almost like a Chips Ahoy or something like that, because it's got a little bit of that dough, feels malty. It's got a good, nice cocoa note to it, and I really like what's happening. And I'm going to take one more sip and then go over that finish. Man, it dances on the tongue, and with every return sip, it just welcomes you that much more into it. It's like hearing a conversation at a distance, kind of curious what they're talking about, and then just kind of being brought into the conversation, and they just sort of welcome you like, hey, come join us. Let's talk whiskey. Let's talk a little Jack. I like it. There's also a little bit of cola, a little black tea. Kind of interesting, and maybe some of that comes from, you know, being aged initially in that charred American oak barrel. I love that there's a good amount of caramel. Oh man, it's savory, and the amount of time that they left it in that Oloroso sherry was probably just right. Again, it's not fruit dominant, it's fruit balanced. For the finish, it's just a nice medium to long finish. Nothing hot, nothing spicy. Now for the price, if you find it at a reasonable, respectable price, you're probably gonna find it for about 80, maybe $100. I think it is worth it. I think that's a respectable price. So if you can come across a liquor store or an online market that'll sell it for that price, do it. Don't think twice, you'll thank me later. But anything beyond that, I think is just probably not gonna feel like it's worth it unless you're into collecting. Now there's some of you guys that like collecting bottles. You like to let them sit on the shelf, get a little dust on there, and just look pretty. But if you're here to sip, like me, you're probably gonna be looking for that respectable price. But anything outside of that, I don't recommend it. As far as a good whiskey, it definitely gets our stamp of approval. Job well done to Jack Daniels, and that distillery is doing great things. I hear that Jack Daniels is gonna be adding the single malt to their core range, so definitely looking forward to that. So for all you guys that are maybe in New Mexico and you want to join some whiskey events, I highly encourage you guys to check out the AlbuquerqueWhiskeySociety.com website. Join up. You can also check them out on Facebook. Very easy to find, a very approachable group. Everybody's friendly. You know, Daniel and his wife Liz host some great events on a monthly basis, and they're always doing something different. They kind of surprise me with some of the things that they do, and it's just a really good crowd. I've met some new friends, some great people along the way by joining the group, and I highly encourage you guys to do the same. Again, we appreciate all the support that you guys show us. If you are a continued sipper here, we appreciate you coming back time and time again. Here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.
Shut up and sit down.